Welcome in to Sportball, the podcast that launched a nation.
Where
I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are my good friends, my sworn enemies, Kyle and Seth. How are we doing, boys?
Which nation did we launch and why was it Belgium?
We have a lot to hit on today. This podcast outline is brought to you by Kyle. Kyle, any words of advice?
We come to you in your time of need to provide you the state of affairs, the state of the union of our two favorite sports with balls.
That's right. We'll be hitting handball and and women's squash today, but first we're going to hit on the NBA and the NFL, our two go-tos, and then we're going to sprinkle a little World Cup action at the end because I hear they do play that with the ball. I know it was invented with a rock, but they've since gone off of that. Obviously, we're experts at that, so you should be looking to us for any sort of advice on the World Cup. So let's start with the NBA, if you'll allow me. Now, I realized all the teams that we have on the outline are in the Western Conference. So I guess we'll just have to hit the Eastern Conference hard next time. So for all you Eastern Conference fans out there, hang up. Stop the podcast. We'll see you next week. We're about 15-ish games into the NBA season, give or take. Time to kind of take stock of who's been disappointing, who's been surprising, and just what the hell goes on here. So the Warriors are 6-9. Very nice number, but not a nice record to be at if you're the defending champions. No team has ever started 6-9 in the first 15 games of the NBA season and won the title. You can take with that what you will.
It'd be funny if that stat was like exactly 6-9. Like teams have started, 5-12 and made it.
Easily made it. They are 12th in the West right now. They're 10th in offensive rating. Okay, that's pretty good. They're 27th in defensive rating. And there's only 30 teams. So that's not very good. They were trying to play James Wiseman earlier in the year, which probably led to a lot of this defensive rating goals. And he was not up to snuff. They were just hemorrhaging points with him in there. So he's out of the rotation. Kind of similar with Kuminga as well. Jonathan Kuminga kind of out of the rotation. Moses Moody sticks around, but Kyle, it seems like they're just trying to play these young guys, but it might be time to just play the veterans and start winning games.
I mean, yeah, you could say that, but it's like, what veterans do they really even have that are reliable? I mean, yeah, you have Steph. Clay's not reliable anymore. Draymond's been a liability for years, except maybe on the defensive end.
It's been a shame.
Andre Iguodala's not going to give you good minutes. Who else?
I think they're going to have to make a trade for a veteran player. I think you're right. They're a little thin. Dante DiVincenzo maybe comes back to full health.
Yeah.
I don't know if that really changes your life, but I think the Clay part's a big issue too, right? I mean, he hasn't looked like himself at all this year. He's been in an all-time slump by his standards.
Right. Yeah. It's like when you look at this team, names jump out at you, but then you think about how long they've been doing this for and the injuries that Clay has gone through. And it's like, besides the starting five and Jordan Poole, there's really no hope anywhere. I mean, half of the starting five gives you no hope either. So,
well, the starting five is one of the best lineups in the NBA this year. And then they turn to the bench, and Poole's been disappointing so far after giving them that big contract. Maybe it's because he got punched by their emotional leader. That'll probably do it to you. And so once they go to the bench, they're just hemorrhaging points, and they can't seem to find anyone off the bench. And so far this season, Klay Thompson has taken more shots than he has points scored. So that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Disappointing for sure.
I
He's
wonder,
shooting 35% from the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just in a huge shooting slump. Like you would think he would figure his way out of it. And that might be like all they need. Did we underestimate the impact of some of those role players who left last season? Right. So Gary Payton II, obviously, although it's not like he was a huge contributor the entire season last year, it was more kind of in the playoffs. And even then, like it's certain matchups. And then Otto Porter Jr., right, giving some kind of veteran presence, some shooting from that big position. Juan Toscano Anderson, like Damian Lee, right?
Damian Lee for sure, yeah.
All these guys who Bielitsa, who not lighting anybody's world on fire, even not even really guys that like people would seek out as like a six man, but competent players who could at least tread water while Steph was on the bench. And I feel like, I don't know, I expected the Warriors to just find other guys to plug in and that they'd be able to do that, but it hasn't worked out so far. And yeah, I don't know, is like, why would Clay suddenly be so much worse at shooting? So I feel like he's just gonna find his way out of that eventually.
We should have mentioned, of course, that this is not due to Steph's play.
No, not
Steph has been insane. I mean, he just scored 50 points in a loss last night. He's averaging 33, 7, and 6.5 on 53, 45, 93% shooting, which
is that good?
I don't know. He has also a PR of 30, which I didn't even know was possible. So yeah, he's been pretty good. And did you see him in the interview last night? He scored 50, they lost. He's like, I need to be doing the little things like boxing out, you know, like Steph, you don't have to apologize. It's really not your fault. Yeah, so I don't know.
There are 3 players with a PER over 30 this season so far.
Jesus.
You want to try and guess the other 2?
I was
Giannis, Luka.
As you were saying this, I was looking it up as well to see like what the history of that is. There were 3 over 30 last year also.
Oh, okay.
So not that
Wait,
bad.
can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Giannis and Luka, either one of them?
Luka is one, correct.
Is it your boy Shea?
It is Shea. That man is on one.
You know, we don't have that on the rundown. Let's just hit that real quick because he's becoming a superstar. I mean, he's averaging, what is he averaging? Like 32 points a game? He's not even hitting threes.
32.3 points, 6 assists, and 4.5 rebounds with, what is that? 3.5 stocks a game.
Yeah, his defense is great too. That was like,
I mean, he's shooting 40% from 3, but he's only taking 3 a game.
Right. Like he hasn't really been using the line at all. He's like a guard version of Giannis.
Pretty much. That's a really good way to explain him. But
and
yeah,
the way
I
he
mean,
moves, man.
It just doesn't ever seem hard.
Yeah.
Like he just makes it all seem way too easy.
Zach Lowe described it perfectly. He said in an article, he moves as if like he can somehow pick parts of his body and move them in different directions from each other simultaneously. Like if you're defending him, it's like trying to like catch water in your hands. Like he just moves at a different pace, a herky jerky style that it's very impossible to defend. He's like, he basically like leads the league in drives and on efficiency on those drives as if he's like a alpha wing, but he's a guard. It's insane.
I just, you know, I love that he's finally getting the attention that he's deserved for all these years. But I've been on the Shea train since 2018, and it's nice to reap what I sow. Is that the right terminology for that?
Something like that. I think that would be more like if you were.
It was bad, right?
Yeah. And no, that would be like if you actually like deserve credit for Shea's success, and then you could get the benefits of it.
I think I do though.
Yeah, I think he does deserve that.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the last thing on Shea before we move on. What does OKC do? Do they just ride it out and
I was gonna bring this up.
like be a middling team this year? Or you can't trade him, right? Like
No.
No.
you can't bench
Absolutely
him.
not.
Like what do you do? I guess
I
you
mean,
don't have
right now
to
they're
make it happen.
still an 11th seed right now. It's 7 and 8.
I mean, yeah, they're tied though with the Timberwolves for record wise. So I mean, one more
Yeah.
win, they're
It's
in the
so
play-in
early.
at this point. Yeah, it's super early.
I think they can still I think they can still sit him down with an injury, but maybe they'll wait until the last like 10, 15 games of the year this year to let them, really ride it out. I don't think they're ever going to be as bad as the Rockets, or probably the Magic or Pistons in the East, if they don't sit them down. So
Even
really
if they
just
do, I
depends.
mean, those teams already have a head start on them.
Right, exactly.
I don't
So
think you can. I like. Yes, you want Victor, but let's see. They have. I'm trying to look up their draft compensations from all the trades that they've made. Like, I think they go and try and make the playoffs. Let me see if I can pull this up. If
Yeah,
you guys
do
want
they
to
have
filibuster at all. I
anyone's-
want to see, yeah,
They
who's
should have
Mm.
Clippers picks, right?
they
So
do, correct. And I think
Good
one
point.
of them is unprotected, but it's the
the Clippers aren't gonna be that bad.
right.
Yeah. I mean, I think they'll be in the mix. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they
Just
can make the
personally.
playoffs.
They're still starting Poku at center, and I just don't want to live on an earth where a team that's doing that will make the playoffs. But maybe Shea's just that good. I think they'll.
Poku, because I watched them play the Celtics the other day. Poku had multiple putback dunks. He would run in from the perimeter and just like jump over everybody and dunk it. And we're like, damn it. Somebody box this guy out. He's 90 pounds.
I mean, right now they're in 11th, right behind them, and 12 is the Warriors. So I would like to think the Warriors will finish ahead of the Thunder. And then the Thunder will be in that final four with the Spurs, Lakers, and Rockets. And then you have a decent shot at least, But they're not going to be the worst team in the league, certainly, if Shea keeps playing. That's for damn sure. I mean, that's what we've seen so far.
And
All
what
right,
you
so
want is to be bottom three, right?
It's the 2024 draft that they have a ton of
Okay.
first rounders. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 first rounders in the 2024 draft. They just have I think they could swap with the Clippers unprotected. So
Okay.
I think they swap if the Clippers is better.
Right.
I think they end up giving up on a playoff run later in the season, but they won't be one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah.
Speaking of one of the worst teams in the league or in the history of organized basketball, the Los Angeles Lakers, who should probably just move back to Minneapolis at this point. 3-10. 3-10. That's 3 wins and 10 losses if you're keeping up. 14th in the West. Somehow the Rockets are worse than them only because they've lost 12 games. They've won the same amount of games with the Rockets. That's a 231 winning percentage if you're keeping score at home. They're 15th in defense. They are 30th in offense, which, as I mentioned, there are indeed 30 teams in the NBA. So you can't get much worse than that. I wanted to put them on the outline just because there's some buzz, some percolations around the league about the trade that we've hammered on this podcast before for Miles Turner and Buddy Hield from the Indiana Pacers, that it might actually happen soon because there's this weird article that came out that was like, oh, LeBron wants to make a trade to be a contender now, which clearly like LeBron had someone write that article. And I don't know, man. I mean, if I was the Pacers, I would definitely do it because I'm 7-6 right now and 6th in the East, and I'd prefer to be 14th in the East. And if I can get 1 or 2 of the Lakers' unprotected picks in 25 and 27, I mean, LeBron's going to be retired or dead. Anthony Davis Anthony Davis is going to be gone probably. And then, but like, what do you like for what?
Even if Anthony Davis is still there
or dead,
what good is that to them this year?
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like, for what? You're going to be a 10th seed. You're 3-10. You're obviously not going to add Miles Turner and Buddy Hield and even be in the top 4 in the West. So what the hell is the point? Like the next Victor Wembanyama in 27 goes to the Pacers, and then you're sitting there with your dick in the hands saying, great, I'm glad we made the play-in 2022.
yeah.
That's exactly what they're going to do.
I assume, I don't know.
The Lakers are, so through, let's see, started off. This is like their tied for their worst start before their win against the Nets, at least. So through
Winners
12
against
games,
the Nets don't even count. That's not even a real NBA team.
I know. Before that win, when they were 2-10, right? It was tied for the 2 worst starts in Lakers team history. 1957 Lakers and the 2015 Lakers.
Wow.
Neither of those 2 years did the Lakers win more than 20 games.
Well, and the best part about this, if you're a Celtics fan and thoroughly enjoying this shit show, is like we were just talking about with Oklahoma City on the other side of this, the Lakers obviously don't own their draft pick, and it's unprotected going to New Orleans. So the Lakers are unintentionally tanking, and I pray to the Lord every day that they'll end up getting Victor Wembanyama and he'll go to New Orleans. And
dude, that would be fucking insane.
Can you
Victor,
imagine that team?
Zion, CJ, BI, Herb Jones, Jonas, kick him to the curb, or play him at small forward.
Yeah, play him at small forward.
Yeah, that's New Orleans Pelicans fans must be like a pig in shit right now because their team's already good. They already have Zion, and they might get one of the first 3 picks in the draft this year.
New Orleans,
yeah, I mean,
and weirdly Utah are in very similar, just moisturized, thriving situations
in their lane, focused.
Yeah.
I mean, Minnesota and the Lakers have the 5th and 6th hardest schedules of the season.
Yeah, so the things aren't looking up for them. Let's talk about Minnesota real quick while you mention it. They are 7-8. 10th in the West. You just mentioned they have the same record as the Oklahoma City Thunder, who once again are starting Poku at center. They're 13th in offense and 17th in defense, and the vibes are just terrible. The vibes are off.
You'd rather start Poku at center than Rudy Gobert, though, right?
I mean, yeah.
If
he's next to Cat. Like, they're just taking jabs at each other. Ant is saying, I need to play more with more space. Karl-Anthony Towns is outing his fast food diet in public. They look disjointed every game. The other day, Karl-Anthony Towns caught a pass 5 feet out of bounds. He might as well have been sitting in the stands when he caught the pass. Anthony
Edwards completely didn't move on a single play in crunch time a couple games ago.
Yeah, it's really bad. And as kind of expected, they're like great on offense with Cat on the floor and Gobert off it, and terrible on defense. And then the exact opposite when Gobert is on the court and Cat sits. Man, we know how you feel, Kyle. The Minnesota Timberwolves, in your eyes, should be out of the league and out of your life forever. Seth, you're on the ground. You're on the ground in Minnesota. You have your ears to the whispers of the Minnesota fans. How are things up there with this team and the vibes?
Yeah. It's a shame. We're having our cousin dinner tomorrow night, so I might see some of my cousins who are really more hardcore Timberwolves fans.
Mm-hmm.
The last I talked to them, it was a little bit like, I can't this isn't how I expected this to go. And yeah, obviously, as you detailed, there's a lot of it that's like interpersonal and just team chemistry kind of stuff. I mean, obviously we had concerns on paper as well before the season, but I thought about, at least Towns can spread the floor on offense. So it's not like you have two bigs who both can't shoot. So from that perspective, like if Gobert is going to fit anywhere, it's with 4 shooters. But the problem is that like the players who are supposedly shooters aren't actually shooting well.
Right.
Like, Joe Russell is washed and has been for
washed. He was never dirty.
He was never dirty. And it's just like their entire offense looks terrible. And yeah, so I don't know. I think the only move they have left to play would be to trade Cat. And I feel like I can't decide if that's a good, bold call or like digging deeper into disaster.
Right. The problem is they're locked into Gobert because of everything they put into him. So they can't do anything there. And the thing they didn't consider when they traded for Gobert is that every single NBA player hates him. Not a single NBA player likes him. Ant hates him. That's obvious. Nobody respects him as a player or a person. I don't know what's up with him. It's kind of like Dwight Howard, where everyone just avoids him at all costs. And I mean, Cat, I don't even know. Who would even... Listen, Cat is tantalizing, but he's low-key just really bad. Like, we get it. You can shoot 40% from 3 and you're a big man. Like, what do you want, a fucking trophy? Like, he literally is the worst big man defender in the league. He literally, like, I watch clips of him defending and it looks like me. And I'm really bad at defense and I'm not in the NBA.
He's honestly just rich man's Davis Bertans. Like, yeah, he's got a few post moves, but otherwise, what's the difference?
Yeah, he literally turns the ball over like 5 times a game and they're just really dumb passes. He has literally the worst awareness of anyone in the NBA. Like, he's not an intelligent player at all. And we've seen time and time again, he's terrible in the playoffs. Absolutely awful. James Harden-esque. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
He's worse than James Harden in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes,
which is saying a lot.
So, like, who's going to trade for him? Probably the Knicks, right?
The Knicks would do anything.
Julius Randle for Karl Anthony Towns. Who says no?
I feel like the whole NBA says no.
Randle is not the missing piece for the Timberwolves.
No, I don't think so at all.
But yeah, I mean, if you're the Timberwolves, like, what kind of, don't you have to try to get like an equal compensation that you just gave up for Gobert if you're going to trade Towns?
But I don't know.
I feel like here's the thing. You kind of have to, like we said, add a bunch of shooters now if you're going to get rid of Towns and build around Gobert and Ant. So I think they need to trade with Utah, send Cat to Utah, and get all of those shooters that Utah has. Just rebuild the Jazz in Minnesota.
That's the thing, though. Like, if they do that, even if it's not with the Jazz, that's what they're gonna do, right? It's just gonna be like Anthony Edwards is Donovan Mitchell. He's gonna hate Gobert just like Donovan Mitchell
a bunch of shooters, yeah.
And then they just have a bunch of mediocre shooters, yeah. Man, they really fucked themselves with this trade, huh?
That, and they didn't allow us to enjoy a Kevin Durant trade over the offseason because of this.
Yeah, that's such a good
point. They screwed us for that. Screwed that.
I don't know. I feel like I think they're still going to make the playoffs. I mean, I guess they're in
no
the
way
play
right
now.
I
mean, I have my doubts now. That's for sure.
What was that bet that we made? There was somebody like higher playoff seed. Oh, it was Timberwolves or Sixers, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Kyle, pull it up.
Seth bet that the Timberwolves make it farther than the Sixers in the playoffs, and me and Sam bet that the Sixers make it farther than the Timberwolves.
Okay.
Well, the Timberwolves are a
Alright,
10
At this
seed,
point,
and the
we
Sixers
just
are a
need
9
the
seed.
Sixers to make the playoffs.
They're a 9 seed.
Neither team would make the playoffs if it ended today, so I don't know what we call that.
Poetic justice.
The
Yeah.
problem is like they locked themselves into Gobert, and it doesn't really fit that well with Anthony Edwards. And Anthony Edwards is 21, and Gobert is the only veteran on the team, and he's not a leader in any sense. I just said nobody respects him. So, like, who talks to them in the locker room and is like, "Hey, we got to step this up." You know what I'm saying? Like, Pat Bev is gone. They got nothing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as we said when it happened, the Gobert move was just outrageously bad, and then like they just shot themselves in the foot. We knew spacing was going to be ass.
Yeah.
We knew it as fans. I don't know what that front office was thinking. How did you look at that team previously and think, you know what we need? Let's clog the center more and not be able, or clog the lane more and not be able to score.
Well,
You know,
what
I
I
didn't-
heard was that it was all like analytics driven, and that they looked at
What
all
kind of
those
analytics they're using.
like they looked at all those fancy defensive metrics for Gobert, and like on the off court different stuff. Like,
Sure,
you know,
yeah. I mean, of
that I
course,
don't
his
really look
defensive
at.
metrics on court are going to be better. Like any teams are going to be better with him, but offensively, nope.
And I think, I mean, we don't really know like the inside of the story. I just remember that from a podcast like over the summer that Timberwolves staff had all these analytics and projections that showed like that what they really needed was a rim protector, and that was like their biggest weakness against Memphis, right, in the playoffs. Like Ja Morant's going to the hole and they don't have anyone there that can stop him because Cat's the only one back there, right? And
No team is stopping Ja Morant, though. That's
Yeah.
Well,
no
I
players.
won't disagree that they needed rim protection, but there are cheaper ways to do it than spending 7 picks on a player who can't do anything but dunk the ball.
Yeah. And the analytics were showing that while Gobert is the best rim protector and your defense, whatever. So I wonder if it's one of those, I mean, it's not a failure of the statistical measures. Like you can use statistics to show whatever point that you want, right? But I think part of the failure was that they didn't consider what Sam talked about, how the personalities were going to mesh,
Mhm.
the chemistry of it all, the fact that everybody hates Gobert, doesn't want to play with them. And then like Anthony Edwards isn't motivated to figure out like the best way for it to fit together because he just would rather complain and like ask for more spacing. So
Yeah.
analytics sometimes steer you wrong if you don't know how to interpret the data.
Well,
and
it's not
don't
just
take
that.
in
I
all
feel
the
like, I
factors.
mean, if you go in with the tunnel vision of we need to improve this, who does that the most?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
You're not assessing other factors.
Right.
Yeah, you need some context along with analytics. It can't just be only that. Speaking of that trade, the team they traded with is above them in the standings despite attempting to tank. They are the Jazz of Utah, 10-6.
Fourth in the West.
4th in the West. They have lost 3 straight, I will mention. But I think it's pretty clear, at least. Like they got off to a 10-3 start. They've slumped a little bit, but I think it's pretty clear this team is like a 500 or a little bit better team as constructed. And if they really want to be in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, they're going to have to make a trade.
Do they though?
Well, I don't know.
I mean, if Minnesota's bad enough, they'll be in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes.
Do they have their pick this year?
Yeah.
I'll double check.
Well, then they're.
I'm like-
well, yeah, we'll see how Minnesota does. That's
I'm
a
like
good point.
90% sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably be watching the standings for that too, right? I think they'll probably give it like 20, 30 more games, see how they look, and then probably decide what to do around the trade deadline.
They have their own pick, of course. The least favorable between the Rockets, Nets, and Sixers, and then the Timberwolves first round pick this year.
Yeah,
Yep.
so they'll definitely be watching their own record along with the T-Wolves to decide what to do, I would imagine.
Yeah. So it's a similar situation we just talked about with the Pelicans,
Yeah.
where it's like they don't even need their own pick to be bad in order to get into the sweepstakes. Now, the Jazz don't have Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, right?
Mhm.
But still, if the Jazz like come out of this with offloading their whole team, ending up with 10 first round picks, and then like the very first one coming up becomes Victor Wembanyama, like, can you imagine asking the Jazz what their best case scenario would be like after the end of the playoffs last season, and then fast forward to that possible scenario? That would have been like undreamable.
I've always said the Utah Jazz need a French center, but they just had the wrong one.
Right.
Yeah, I bet, Kyle, I mean, this is like a decent team as constructed. So I bet they'll, if the Timberwolves are, in playoff contention come 20 games from now, they might have to unload Mike Conley at least and a few other pieces if they're really trying to get to the bottom.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably what happens. Like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's like, if you get, say we get through the end of this year, right? We're going into January and the Jazz are still a top 5 team in the West. You think that they start offloading everyone still? And
Top 5, probably not. But if they're like 7th or 8th, it's
yeah,
like,
if they're playing material, I could see
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Right.
a contender would trade for Conley, right? I mean, a contender I feel like would trade for just about any one of those, top 7, 8 players on this team.
They have good players. That's why they're like a 500. I think the Magic slipper is already falling off. Is that how Cinderella went? Because I mean, they've lost 3 in a row. Like, I think
They haven't been by much though. Like, it's been like
Yeah.
5 to 8 point losses.
they're
Like,
not going to be terrible, but they're not going to be
blown out.
the 10-3 start that they had. They're going to be probably slightly above 500, I would guess.
Yeah. I mean, you just like Jordan Clarkson's done so much for his own stock too. Like, there's definitely going to be contenders that want to be able to get 18 points and 5 assists coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Obviously starting now doing that, but to know that's an upside there now, like.
Let me ask y'all this as Bulls fans. How come Lowry couldn't do this for y'all?
He was too young. He also he was just a shitty situation with coaching.
That was the Boylan era. We don't speak about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they have a bunch of good, like 5th starters, like 6 men that a lot of teams would want. So if there's a fire still to come and they start to slip, they're going to do it and they're going to get good value for it, which would be smart.
Who could use some of those players is the Warriors.
You're telling me.
Kelly Olynyk on the Warriors stat, dude.
Yeah.
You know how great of a fit that
My
would be?
God, that just feels like a Warriors player right there. That's such a good point.
5 and 3 assists and shooting almost 50% from 3.
Kelly Olynyk would already be their best bench player. So, I mean,
easily. He might even start.
he might not start, but considering their starting lineup's like the best in the league, but he would still help them a lot.
All right. I think we've exhausted our NBA. I've done all I can. Should we switch over to the NFL?
Yes.
And then finish with some World Cup. There's no other podcast where you get 3 sports. All right. And that's why you come to Sportball. You remember that, kids. I hope there's no kids listening.
I hope there are.
Vikings Bills. I want to start with that. Seth, allow me to have a recap of the game, and then you have the floor to basically wax poetic on your precious Vikings. All right. Game of the year, early game of the year candidate. I don't think it'll be beat just for wildness at the end of the game. So the Vikings were down. They were at 4th and 18. basically game's over if they don't get it. Kirk Cousins heaves the ball downfield. Justin Jefferson is in no way open. And he makes an incredible catch, maybe the best I've ever seen, one-handed. I feel like the defender had two hands on it. Justin had one. He kind of ripped it away and turned over. It was, you got to give props to the defender for helping him catch it. So that was insane. They didn't even score on that drive, turns out, because they got down to the one. They said, let's do a QB sneak, which is, well,
It was more like the 4-inch line.
yeah, exactly. And they did a QB sneak, which is the most efficient play, except Kirk Cousins took the QB sneak, didn't plant his feet at all. No, literally just fell forward and
I
didn't get
swear
it
he
at all.
made it in though.
This is the worst QB sneak I've ever seen. He literally didn't.
It was bad, but I
He
swear
didn't plant his feet. So he
Yeah,
didn't get it.
It's like when you fall forward, except when your feet get like slide out from underneath you, and
Yeah,
your head doesn't go forward at all; it just goes down. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically what he did.
he just fell down essentially, and he literally fell down the play before when he stepped in his lineman's foot for the second time that game. And then the Bills take over at the 4-inch line. All they have to do is run a QB sneak and the game's over. Josh Allen just doesn't take the snap. He says, I'll leave that there on the ground for you. The Vikings recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. Never in my life have I seen such a thing. I was butt naked running around after watching that. So then, okay, the Vikings are winning. Game over, you think. Wrong. Josh Allen drives for a field goal. A deep pass to Gabe Davis gets completed that wasn't actually complete at all. For some reason, they don't review it because why would they review the most critical play of the game? That doesn't make any sense. So whatever, they get a field goal, overtime, baby. Felt right, though. It did feel right that was an overtime game. The Vikings drive all the way down to near the end zone. Of course, they can't get it in because they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback. So they get a field goal. Joshua drives all the way down the field. You're like, oh, okay, they're going to tie it up or they're going to win. And then he throws an inexplicable red zone interception to Patrick Peterson. And the game was over. And we were all just shocked. And your Vikings got to win, Seth.
What a freaking game. Just the epitome of a roller coaster. Numerous times did all of us Vikings fans feel like, okay, damn, we lost this one. We let it slip away. Thanks, Kirk. You did it again. I kept screaming during the game, not even screaming, but just pleading before the snap. I'd be like, Kirk, just don't be yourself. Just pretend that you're somebody else. And then he'd immediately like trip over our own offensive lineman.
He did that twice.
Or throw a pass into the defensive line's hands, tipped at the line. Or
Dude, the second time he stepped in the offensive lineman and fell backwards, he fell backwards as if he'd been shot.
Oh man, you can't make
Kirk
it up.
is growing on me though. I'm not gonna lie. The Kirko celebrations, they get me riled up, dude.
Holy shit, man.
Yeah,
Kirko bangs, baby.
yeah. So, and I was all ready to say, like, I think I was typing out a text to both of you, saying, like, weirdly, even though we lost the game, I feel more confident in the Vikings that they were able to hang with the Bills.
Yeah.
And then we won. And so now I feel even more confident that we're able to beat a team like the Bills. And yeah, I mean, you can look at several different plays depending on your perspective and who you're cheering for and say, oh, this was lucky, this was unlucky, whatever. Like, we obviously got some lucky breaks, but like you talked about, Sam, like the refs fucked us at one point, and certain plays that Kirk made that no other quarterback would have done. So,
Dude, the one of the interceptions he threw, it looked like he was just passing it to the defender, like
he was
running a route.
I think he just was like going through his progressions, and like that's the approximate area where our receiver was supposed to be, and he saw like a human being who was separate from other human beings, and he's like, oh, that must be my receiver.
He's wide open.
Yeah, just you can't make it up with Kirk. So yeah, I feel very encouraged after this game.
I mean, you have to.
The usual caveat, like the Vikings always find some way to break your heart. but I think we showed that this team can play with anybody. And at the same time, like the Eagles lost, so they showed that they're not impervious. So I think things just got a decent amount closer at the top of the league, where we maybe would have said before this last week, like, all right, it's Bills, Eagles, Chiefs. Can't really imagine anyone else winning it. And now I don't think that's the case anymore.
I mean, clearly the Vikings can beat anyone and they can lose to anyone because all their games have been one score. So
right.
Would I be surprised if they're in the Super Bowl? No. Would I be surprised if they lose the first game of the playoffs? No. I mean, how could I be surprised by anything when every game you play is a one-score game?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or again, it's all about your perspective. Does that mean, wow, the Vikings are clutch? We make it happen when it's a tight game, and that's exactly the type of skills that you need in the playoffs? Or is it just kind of a crapshoot? And if we were a really good team, we'd be dominating the bad teams.
Probably both, right? I mean, you might get lucky in a playoff game, or you might, have the skills in the clutch, or your luck might finally run out.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's clear you can beat anyone. You just beat the Bills, so.
Yeah. And Justin Jefferson is that boy.
The damn fact. He is him.
Man. All right, Kyle. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think it's, I don't know if it's a like Justin Jefferson's just the best wide receiver in the NFL, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a debate really anymore.
I mean,
it never was for me.
I didn't think it was either.
I
feel like you argued Cooper Kupp just last
Cooper
year.
Kupp, I mean, I think is just as good as Justin Jefferson when healthy. But
I don't think he can make the plays that Justin Jefferson can.
Let's see Justin Jefferson have a quarterback that's not Kirk Cousins, and I think you'll see that he's better than Cooper Kupp.
I don't like the position you're putting me in this conversation, so I'm just gonna.
Kyle, he mentioned your Eagles and my Eagles, the ones that we birthed from our loins together, slipped up and lost to the commies of Washington, D.C. Bound to happen. I still think this team's elite. I mean, our commies are looking decent, to be honest.
I mean, it's that Heineke magic. Hanky Panky Heineke, they call him, I heard.
That's what I call him.
I mean, hey, there was a lot that went wrong. Wow, he couldn't even make it to the end of this podcast without having to pee this time. There was a lot that went wrong for the Eagles. Also, they had the ball and they were driving in the fourth to be able to tie the game when the refs completely missed a blatant face mask that you could argue caused a fumble, which
definitely it did.
Then gave the commies the ball at like the 35-yard line with 5 minutes or something to go. So a lot didn't go their way. AJ Brown dropped probably more passes that game than he's dropped all season combined.
Oh, I'm aware.
It's a I think it's a what's the word that I'm thinking of? It's out there.
Once in a blue moon?
No, that's not what I was thinking, but an outlier game. An outlier result.
Outlier. It wasn't. He said it's out there. It's lying out there. What do I call it? I mean, they turned the ball over 4 times, including like the fumble at the end. So they had only 3 turnovers this year, and turnovers are usually kind of a lucky stat. So it was going to catch up to them eventually. I mean, I'm not worried. I still think they'll be the 1 seed. Maybe they'll play the 2 seed with the Vikings coming on, but I still think they're an elite team. And them and the Vikings seem to be the class of the NFC. Do you hear what I'm saying out of my lips, Seth? The Vikings are part of the class of the NFC. Speaking of the NFC, Cooper Kupp, you hate to see this. high ankle sprain, had surgery, out at least 4 weeks, could be out for the rest of the year, depending on how the Rams' next games go, I imagine. Probably pretty much puts a nail in the coffin of the Rams' playoff chances, huh?
Yep.
Oh, 100%.
They looked atrocious even with Cooper Kupp. He was their only good player. So
I believe this is the worst record any team has had this far in the year that is a defending champion. So
Yeah, I
much
can
like
see
the
it.
Warriors. I don't know what happens in California, but these teams that win just can't keep it going. It's probably the Heat. Well, sad to see that. The other two teams that we're talking about in the NFC have made a bit of a run. Since we last spoke, the Buccaneers seem to have taken advantage of their shitty division finally. So they look like they're going to sneak into the playoffs. It's kind of good. I feel like it's going to be like we expected going into the year. They're going to be 10-7, make the playoffs in a shitty division. Not going to be a lead team. And the Packers, we'll see. They're playing the Titans right now. They won last week over the Cowboys, so they're looking at least decent. Maybe they'll sneak in a wild card. We shall see. Could be the commies there. If I have to watch the commies in a NFL wild card game,
it could be.
they can't go back to Carson Wentz, right? Even when he's healthy.
No way.
What's up with Carson Wentz? Every team just gives him a chance, and they're like, "Oh wait, oh that's right, he is bad," and then they just get rid of him after a year.
Pretty much.
Okay, good. Just checking.
It's
Well,
kind
that
of
was
like
the.
Westbrook.
It really is. Maybe Carson Wentz can, like Russell Westbrook, lead a team in China. Speaking of China and just international play, the World Cup, it's happening. Would you believe it? It's November and it's the World Cup's happening. We don't know anything about the World Cup, but we're going to give you our picks
That's
anyway.
false, I think.
All right, so here, allow me to read you the odds for winners of the World Cup. Brazil at plus 350, Argentina at plus 500, France at plus 700, Spain at plus 850, England 9-1, and Germany 10-1. So it's your usual suspects. Did you guys know only 8 countries have ever won the World Cup? And I believe it's those 8 right there.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
Oh, that was only 6. I think the other ones are Uruguay and I don't know, someone else. But yeah, there's literally only been 8 teams that have won it. So I'm going to go with Argentina plus 500. Messi's last dance, you might say. This is probably Messi's last best chance to win a World Cup. And
It's his last World Cup he's going to play in.
Exactly. So he's never going to get a better one. So the scant research I've been doing, it seems like although they've had talented teams in the past, this team fits more well around Messi than any they've had before. Kind of play to his strengths and can really play as a team around Messi. Whereas in the past they just had a bunch of talent, like an all-star team, that doesn't really fit together. So I kind of like the feel of that, and I always cheer for Messi. So tax evasion aside, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him hoist the trophy once again and just cement himself as the greatest of all time. What do you think? What do you think, Seth?
That would be cool. I'm going into this with zero knowledge whatsoever about any of these teams. I mean, I know Messi's good, so that makes sense to me. But I gotta throw my hat in with Germany.
Gotta.
I mean, who am I if I don't?
I mean, they're always good, and they're always good in World Cup play.
Yeah. So I'm gonna look up the roster right now, see how many of the names I recognize from 4 years ago. Oh, we still got Neuer, so that's all we need.
I should mention our own country.
Thomas Mueller, right? Is he still
Oh,
playing?
Thomas is good. I assume. I should have mentioned our own country. The USA is 130-1.
Yeah, it's not looking great for us.
Sounds like we have a chance.
Yeah, I mean,
Mueller.
I'm one of those guys, like, I obviously grew up playing soccer.
Mario Götze.
Götze, yeah. I grew up playing soccer and I love watching it, and I know a decent amount about the game, but I just don't follow the Premier League or the Champions League or anything. And so I just don't know the players, but I am very much looking forward to watching the World Cup. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
I love the World Cup. I love the World Cup and the Olympics because it's like something I don't normally watch, and it comes around.
Yeah, because we
every
don't
few
get it
years.
we don't get it every day.
Right, exactly. Who are you picking, Kyle?
I mean, you already know I have to roll with the only soccer football stogie boy that there is in Kylian Mbappe and my boys from France.
Of course.
I mean, they were really good, so that's probably a good bet.
Yeah, I mean, they're not supposedly expected to be as good as they were 4 years ago when they won the World Cup. Some of their other best players, I guess, are kind of more on the backside of their career arcs now, but I don't think that really matters when you got Mbappe. I mean, right?
They
That's all
have
you need.
Mbappe and Benzema, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
like
they got Benzema.
those are two of the best players in the world, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
that's like having LeBron and AD. I hope the rest of their team isn't as bad as the Lakers.
How dare you?
We should mention that our boys from Belgium are 18-1. You gotta love that.
The Belgian boys?
I heard I heard the golden, what is it, the golden shower? What is their team called? The golden
I don't think it's the golden shower. I'm just gonna guess.
The golden age of the golden generation. What do they call it? The Belgium team that was like really good for the last couple of years. I'll look it up. But it's over
Golden
now.
age?
Is what
It's
I hear.
over now. It's done. They got the
Belgium
Golden age?
golden generation. I was right. First try, I was right.
They got De Bruyne and Eden Hazard.
Yeah, but Eden Hazard is 33. No, 31.
So
They're just old.
yeah.
Simply
But sometimes that's all
put.
you need is a little experience.
Yeah.
No team has won an international tournament with such an old defense.
But sometimes it's all you need.
Can I give you a sleeper that's definitely not going to win that I sneaky like?
Hold on, let me guess. I think I know who it is.
All right, go ahead.
It is Senegal.
I do sneaky like them, but I heard their strikers out. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. But now I was gonna go with Denmark, 22-1. From once again, scant. I cannot describe to you enough how scant this research is that I did. Okay. It sounds like the Danes, they're kind of the Utah Jazz of the World Cup. Okay. They just have a solid team around them, no superstars. That can carry you far when you have that camaraderie in the World Cup and that's full of all-star teams, right? And I just love a good morning Danish, so.
Well, I mean,
What better reason could you have?
they have 2 victories over France, apparently, recently. And according to Sporting News, if they pick up the momentum in the group stages, don't look now, but another brave Danish charge is in the cards.
That's what I say when I wake up every morning for my breakfast.
I mean, how could you not like a goalkeeper named Kasper Schmeichel?
I certainly don't hate it.
Okay, I know a couple of these players, so that's always good.
Do you think they should just put Victor Wembanyama in goal for France? I mean, he takes up half the goal.
Probably not a bad idea.
I know. All right, well, that about does it for we covered 3 sports today.
Still didn't get to professional handball though.
I ask you, what other podcasts could cover 3 sports as mediocrely as we just did?
We're going to
Mediocrely?
start covering pickleball soon.
Must be
mind
said.
it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kyle, send us off so we can watch the rest of this Titans Green Bay game.
I mean, what's there to say? Go to sleep, wake up, eat your Wheaties, and pray that the Lakers have the worst record in the NBA.
Amen.